It's Pete from Cheap Homesteading. I'm in the garage this morning and my friend brought over his Arctic Cat Prowler. It's a 1000cc side-by-side. It is absolutely a beautiful unit, but he had some problems with it and he said that the coolant was going down. He couldn't find out where it was going. He topped it up a few times and now all of a sudden it won't start. So that was kind of concerning to me. I didn't know if he overheated the motor, took out the motor, or what it is. So I said, if you can get it over to me, I'll take a look at it. So this morning, I have a little bit of time before I have to go to work, so we're going to try to diagnose at least the starting circuit on it and make sure that there's nothing wrong with the starter, the cables, or the battery, and we'll go from there. Hopefully it's a starter and not an engine, but we'll go take a look at it. So let's go. I'm going to show you what it's doing. We're going to diagnose the starting circuit first, and then we're going to go from there. So we remove the seat. We know that it can start to roll over, so it's probably not a fuse. But underneath here is where you store your battery. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that the battery is fully charged. So I'm going to throw the charger on it for just a little bit. Okay, I have to show you this thing. This is like an antique Simpson Sears battery charger. The gauge really doesn't work very good, but it actually works really, really good. And this thing weighs a ton. This is an awesome charger. You know, I could afford to buy another charger, but you know what? I love that thing. I like old equipment. I charged it for a little bit. So now we're going to do a load test on the battery. I just went out and I bought a cheap battery load tester. I got it at Princess Auto, but you can buy it at Harbor Freight or wherever you buy your cheaper tools. And you know what? These things work great. So the first thing we're going to do is test the battery. Okay, so you put the positive terminal on. You put the negative terminal. I took it off the charger and it's a little over 12.5 volts. Whenever you put on the charger, it has a residual charge. It's a little higher than fully charged. And basically, fully charged battery is 12.5 volts. So we're sitting good. We connected it to the battery. We are going to apply a load to it by pushing this button for 10 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It sprung back quickly to 12. The recovery time is an important thing. If it comes back quick, it's good. Now we do that 2 more times. So you want to do it total of 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You release it, it springs back, and it's recovering to 12.5 relatively quickly. We'll do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, that's why they call it a toaster. And it is recovered pretty quickly. So what you want to do is, when you do your load test, you do not want it to drop past 9.5, which has stayed like 10.5, so that's good. You do it 3 times, and you want to see that it recovers quickly. So this battery is absolutely perfect. It tests out good. So now we can move on to diagnosing the rest of the circuit. There's multiple reasons you can have a weak or a starter that rolls over slow is bad connections at the battery terminals, so you can clean those. A little bit corroded, you can see. You can have a bad connection down on the starter. Your starter's down there. And there is a starting solenoid right there. So it's possible there can be bad connections anywhere, which makes the starter roll over slow and be weak. But what I want to do, instead of going and chasing every bad connection in here, which is a good thing to clean them up, but I want to see what the problem is. You get your voltmeter and you check the ground size. Check from here to the ground on the frame, and then crank it over and see if there's a voltage drop. If there's none, then you check the positive and you go from here to the actual starter terminal and see if there's a voltage drop. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I got my Princess Auto voltmeter here. I'm going to turn it to 20 scale. DC volts. So a voltmeter just checks differential voltage. So when you go on your battery, there's a difference between the positive and the negative of 12 volts. So this is kind of the same thing. You use the voltmeter. So you go on this end of the cable to the other end of the cable. Even if there's like a starter solenoid in between or anything like that, you crank it over. And when you're cranking it over, that's when there is the most resistance, because there's heat, there's electrical transfer. And if you have a major voltage drop, you know that's where you're losing your power. So you don't have the power to get to the starter. So it is really important to check voltage drops. If you check resistance, basically you just see if there's continuity. It doesn't give you a proper view. It's the best thing is to do is try to crank it over and check if there's a voltage drop. Because that's exactly when you're actually using the system. There's power flowing, and that is the time that you're going to have more resistance. So we're going to check that. So I connected to the positive battery cable. Now we're going to put this one to the actual starter terminal. Hopefully you can actually see if there's a voltage drop. So right now you have a voltage drop of 12.5 because I haven't tried to crank it. So now we're going to try it and see what the voltage drop is. So basically, it is a 1 volt voltage drop. So on the positive cable, we have 1 volt. That can be caused by, if you have a starter that has a huge draw, everything heats up. So you're going to start having a bad connection. So we probably do need to clean all the connections on the positive side to make sure it's working perfect. But I don't think that's the problem. So we're going to check the negative side. On this one, when I touch the frame, it's going to show 0 volts. So I'm on the negative side of the battery terminal. Let's crank it over and see what happens. It's 0.2, 0.3. So the negative side has 0.3, it's perfect. Positive side has a little bit of voltage drop on it. But the issue is, I mean, it runs from the battery to the solenoid, through the solenoid to the starter. So there's more connections. So I probably have to clean that up. So now we know that the battery's good. We know that there's no voltage drop, any real amount on the negative side. And there's just a slight voltage drop on the positive side. So I'm going to clean up the connections on the positive side. We're going to try it again and just see if it works better. Okay, we'll try it again. .3, 0.5, so that is perfect. So I think we're pretty much down to the starters, so I'm just going to order one in, and we're going to swap it out. So that'll be another day though. So that's about enough for today. You guys have a good one.